Welcome to the Life Junkie podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Life Junkies podcast. Now, it's a little bit late, a week late to be exact, but I am here to review the TLC pay-per-view. The reason this is late is I've been moaning on the last two pay-per-views about a bit of mental fatigue. Well, I ended up, after the last podcast, the next day, I was ill. I was ill for just over a week. It seeped into Christmas a little bit, but basically, last weekend I wanted to get a load of stuff done. I wanted a video that would go up on Christmas Day. I wanted to get the podcast out on the Sunday, and I wanted to set an articles around and to get stuff up Christmas related and then New Year's related to come up today and this coming week. I was just too ill to get anything done. So even the podcast, which is probably the thing that I enjoy making the most each week, I wasn't even well enough really to properly watch and make show notes on TLC. So today I sat down, sort of rewatched it a bit and jotted down a few notes. So you might want, some people might say, "Oh, why bother doing a TLC pay-per-view review now at all? Your reviews are about a week late anyway when you do them. This one's 2 weeks late now." Well, because I want to. This isn't something I'm doing for the hits or blah blah blah. It's something I do because I like it and I find it quite fun. And it makes it easier for me. I've got other ideas, but it's about getting people lined up and the dominoes lined up so they can all fall in the right way. So this gives me sort of an extra week's breathing space of before I've got to sort of get guests on and people lined up and work out other ideas and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm doing it because I want to. Anyway, that's enough for my intro so far, and I will take a quick break and we'll get into the matches.
This is a Life Junkie podcast.
So, first match on the pre-show was Cedric Alexander versus Buddy Murphy. I said on the preview that I really hoped they wouldn't put this match on the pre-show because these two have been putting on, but these guys have been putting on great matches every time they fought each other or other people, and then they go put it first match on the pre-show. I think it sends out a really sad message to these guys, or to the entire roster really, that no matter how good a match you put on, your spot on the card is your spot on the card. The match has actually got onto the main card, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. And the fact that this one was knocked off is a real shame. And I think if you want 205 Live to be something more than it currently is, then you need to treat it like it is, and they don't at the moment. They treat it like it's a sideshow for the main thing, where it could be so much more. And I've got a lot of ideas for what I would do personally. Personally, I would scrap 205 Live in its own as it exists right now. But that is a conversation for a video at some point that I will do. In the end, Buddy Murphy won, which I think was the right decision. I was championing Cedric Alexander earlier in the year to be champion through past WrestleMania. But as they've made the change now, I don't think it would help at all to put it back on Cedric Alexander, no matter how good he is. So, Buddy Murphy is the right winner, and hopefully he can keep it for a long time because that's how you build a title. Next match came up was Elias versus Bobby Lashley in the confusing gimmick match. I talked about last week 2 weeks ago, how the rules just didn't seem clear, and it wasn't just me confused. It seems that the people that actually watch the shows were very, very confused as well, and there were arguments over how the match would work. I think they confused the matter with this whole whoever hooks the guitar gets to use it thing. It turns out that it's whoever climbs the ladder and hooks the guitar wins. So it's basically a standard ladder match but with a guitar at the top. But And I've got on my notes from last week I had Bobby Lashley down to win, but I don't know under what rules because I wasn't too sure if you had to hit someone with a guitar to win or what. So I can't actually remember what I said last week and how I made my decision. But in this time, Elias won. He climbed up and got the guitar before Leo Rush tracked him and Bobby Lashley hit him with a guitar. It was naff. A match. I don't know. This whole thing with Bobby Lashley's favourite pose, which is straight out of a Vince McMahon playbook. I don't understand the point of that. So yeah, putting a gimmick match on the pay per view on the pre-show obviously is the idea is behind it is to sell the show. I don't see how that really sold the show really, but there you go. Obviously, there's people that are paid far more money than I am to make these decisions, and that's the decision they went with. Now, moving on to disappointing matches. I say disappointing. Is it disappointing if you didn't expect anything from it in the first place? This is definitely a match that should have been on the pre-show, but wasn't. I would have completely swapped it with the Cruiserweight title match. This is the Mixed Match Challenge Final with a Fabulous Truth. That's R-Truth and Camilla versus Mahalicious, which is Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. Wasn't great, was it? But did anyone expect it to be great? I'm a big R-Truth fan. I loved his little Jimmy stick, over 10 years ago. But he's getting on a bit, and he's not. While he's still as funny as he used to be, he's not quite the wrestler he was before. Jinder Mahal's always been fairly boring. Carmella, while she's improved a lot in the ring over this year, is again still not great. And Alicia Fox is just Alicia Fox. Again, they did the dance break in the middle, and I'm not too sure if it's just me being old and grumpy. If 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would have enjoyed this or not. But I don't understand it. I don't get it. I think it makes a sport of wrestling, which we allow a lot of fairly dumb things happen because it's fake. The point of it being fake is that we can do these things. It doesn't have to be completely serious all the time. But I don't know. It makes the whole thing look really stupid. Again, that's probably me being a grumpy old man. In the end, the Fabulous Truth win, and they win a all expenses paid holiday to Stamford, Connecticut, so R-Truth can go visit WWE HQ. Again, this is R-Truth doing his best shtick. It's supposed to be funny, I guess. would it have been better if he hadn't done something dumb and actually got them holiday somewhere decent? I don't know. I don't know where else they could have gone with it really, other than this. I'm sure. Again, I haven't watched Raw and SmackDown, but I'm sure we'll get some skits of them wandering around WWE headquarters and R-Truth being really happy and Camilla looking really bored and miserable. But more importantly, both R-Truth and Carmella are at number 30 in their respective Royal Rumble matches. Now, these are both guys that are not going to win the Royal Rumble matches. Maybe they'll play, maybe I'll mess around with it. Maybe Carmella will lose hers to Becky Lynch or something or whatever else. But it's a bit uninspiring, isn't it? You want your number 30 pick, even if you're taking the surprise away, which again I said 2 weeks ago that I have no issue with them taking the surprise away from it, but at least give it someone interesting. Make a storyline out coming up to the Royal Rumble. Hopefully, there's a lot of time between now and the Rumble. Is 3-4 weeks, so yeah, maybe they'll do something decent with it. Maybe not, probably not. But there you go. Next up was the SmackDown Tag Team Title match, in which the Bar took on the New Day and the Usos. We're pretty much running out of things to say about the match between these three guys. For over a year, it's just been these three. Before the Bar came over to SmackDown, it was the New Day and Usos every pay-per-view for titles. When the Bar and New Day were both on Raw, it was the Bar and New Day pretty much every pay-per-view for the titles. So what else can you add to a match like this? It was an enjoyable match. I really liked the match, but surely at this point you've got to blood some new guys. You've got to give some of these teams that are coming up a chance to challenge for and win these titles. And I know Vince is down on tag team wrestling. He apparently, we've learned in the last few weeks, it's because it's more expensive. It's because you've got to pay 4 guys to wrestle in a match rather than the 2 guys you pay for a singles match. But these matches are vitally important to the card. They had something completely different, a nice break from the one-on-one matches you're getting all the way through. and they've got to elevate some of these younger teams. Why aren't Sanity in the title picture? These guys are great. They were really good on NXT. And yes, okay, they're missing Nikki Cross, who's brilliant, but now she's coming. Hopefully, she's going to be paired back with Sanity, and they can have a run at the titles. I think it's just, you don't necessarily need them to win the titles. Just make them big and scary. Give them a good feud against some of these guys, and give them a chance to show what they can do. Just by putting up in the title picture, you're elevating them. They don't have to. If you want the bar to have that long title run, that's fine. They don't need it. I think we're coming to the end of a bar's life cycle. I think it would strengthen these guys to let them go and go their own way. They've shown that they've got the chops to work together, and that's fine. But especially with Cesaro, he needs that chance to show he can wrestle in the main event, and they need people in the main event. They've got a dearth of great wrestlers there. So, let some of the newer guys come up. And I feel a similar way to the New Day. I would completely split the bar, completely split them. The New Day I would keep together. So they're still a team, but maybe let them go, let Big E go and challenge for the world title, give Kofi or Xavier a United States or an Intercontinental title run, something like that, to just to give them a break. Because the New Day don't need to be split up. There's no reason to split them up. They're always stronger together, and you can feed that into storylines as well. This faction that are, sometimes they'll be wrestling tag matches. Maybe this week they just won a match to go for the tag team titles of this month. This paper, that's what they're going to do. And then when that feud's over, you can switch them back to singles and have Big E and Kofi going for the tag title as well. Xavier holds the United States title and defends that at the pay-per-views. There's more interesting things you can do with them as a team that allow them the singles careers as well while you're doing it. I'm not the one making the decision, but I think that would be the way to go with them. And the Usos, well, I think the Usos are pretty much stuck together. It's bad enough when your brothers like the Hardy Boys are found out, but when you're actually twins, if they split, if they're going to go for singles titles, you're going to lose one of them. But Vince will not keep both of them on the roster if they're not a tag team. So it's probably best for both of them that they are a tag team. I still think, this is from a few years ago, I still think pairing them with Roman Reigns would be a good idea. Play off of Samoa, and they teased it a little bit. I still think Roman is someone that needs other people around him. I don't think he's quite charismatic enough to get over with the general fans. And again, this is, Roman's got his stuff he's got to deal with first before he can come back. But when he comes back, instead of doing a Shield rehash, I would put him with Usos and have them as his backup, whether he's face or heel. He'll probably come back as a face, and have them there to help him against, maybe a heel New Day. Again, I'm putting these guys together in a feud again. Hopefully by then they've created some more groups, maybe Sanity or something like that. Anyway, that was that. Next up, we had the TLC match of Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman. Now, I predicted 2 weeks ago that this was going to be a short match. I thought maybe Braun would come out and squash him. Obviously, Braun was in no condition to. He's still up in a sling. He wouldn't have been able to wrestle any sort of match. So they did the best thing they could have done in the circumstances and had the other wrestlers that Corbin has been screwing over the weeks on Raw come out and take him out with Heath Slater, who he's reduced to a referee role, taking off referee shirt and attacking him. He had Gable and Rude, who, even though they won the tag team titles, which they shouldn't have, but anyway, even though they won the Raw tag team titles, Corbin's been against them all the way through, and it was a few hours Finn who had the feud with him, which lasted months, but actually went nowhere. And then finally, Kurt Angle coming out. I'm sure I've missed one or two people. And then finally, Angle came out when Corbin tried to run away and gave him the Angle slam and the ring, so they could all hit him with chairs. And then Braun Strowman could get the cocky pin on him. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. That's Corbin out of a GM role. I feel sorry for Corbin because I did read up a bit on the Raw after this pay-per-view, and it seems that the WWE, that McMahon's are trying to play it off as people haven't been watching because of Corbin. And while Corbin seems to have been a dominant force on Raw, I don't think he's to blame because he's a character. I don't really know. They blur the actualities and the kayfabe storylines together in circumstances like this. But it seems that they haven't really changed much about the show yet. And the other side effect of this shake-up is that Paige has lost her job over in SmackDown as well, as they're doing away with the GM concept. Apparently they've got another offer. She's been really good as a GM, from what I've seen. it seems a shame that she's out. But if she's having another role, maybe she can come back, be a manager. Oh, we all know how they feel about managers, but again, I think managers are something. Again, that going back to the tag team conversation, having a manager manage someone, that's another paycheck you've got to add. So maybe that's, especially sort of recently with all the cost cutting measures, with getting rid of the superstar videos, the players on the Titantron, and getting rid of the pyro and stuff. Maybe that's another issue. They don't want to have to pay a manager to run around. Although I can't imagine how much money they used to have to pay a guy like Mr. Fuji as opposed to Yokozuna. But Paige is really good, and that wasn't the point I was making. What was the point I was making? We were talking about Corbin and the Shaker. Yes. So they've come out, and all they seem to have done is got rid of Corbin, which, okay, that's fine. But, he was only doing the material that he had been given. The real issue is that the writing has been atrocious for a long time. And again, that's going to rear its ugly head later on in the show, as it's two great wrestlers have been given a awful build-up and have been completely wasted. And it led to the fans not being interested in the match. But that is another few matches later. So the next match I've got to get onto is the tables match with Natty Neidhart and Ruby Riott. And I talked a lot about this 2 weeks ago. I talked a lot about the use of Jim, the Anvil Neidhart, after his death. I talked a bit about Roman Reigns and his leukemia diagnosis and how that is played into a pay-per-view. And I talked about Dusty Rhodes and his death being used in a one-off segment. And I talked a lot about the right way to do these things and the wrong way to do these things. Again, pointing out that I've never been in this situation. I'm not part of this situation. I don't know any of these people personally. I'm just, some random dude that's talking on a podcast that's listened to by, 3 people. And there was a genuine concern that Vince McMahon had got into his head the idea of Natty being put through that Jim the Anvil Neidhart table, and that was his big payoff for this feud. And I think that would have been really bad. I don't think any of the fans wanted to see it. I don't think she would have wanted to do it. I think it would have been solely Vince McMahon booking for Vince McMahon. When has he ever done that? So in the end, let's talk about a little bit about the points throughout the match. The main part I enjoyed was Liv Morgan took a stunning bump for a table. And then a bit later on, the other Riot Squad, I can't remember her name, she also went for a table. That was all right. It's Liv Morgan's bump with the ferocity of it, and it looked like it really hurt. The ferocity of that sort of played down everything else happened later on. But anyway, the other Riot Squad member also went for a table, and they both disappeared. Like this is SmackDown versus Raw 2008 or something. And then there was a spot where Natty Neidhart had her in a sharpshooter and had Ruby Riott in a sharpshooter, and Ruby Riott hit her with a Jim the Anvil Neidhart table, which I guess, Vince would have wanted the Anvil Neidhart, the Jim table to be used on Natty at some point. So that's the lesser of two evils if the other option is her being put through and losing the match. And we got the Ruby Riott table pulled out, and Natty pulled out the Anvil hat and the Anvil jacket and sunglasses, and that was really nice. I know if people didn't enjoy it, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was a nice pop and a nice callback to her dad to give him a bit of. Again, we talk the moves she uses. The moves are all from Brett, who's her uncle. I'm not entirely sure on the Neidhart lineage or who's part of it through storyline purposes and who's actually part of it and how it all works. But she uses a lot of matches from Brett, who again is by far the bigger wrestler. But it's nice to actually do a callback to her dad for once instead of her uncle, who I think is her uncle, and actually, with a jacket in the shades, and then finally putting Ruby Riott through the table with her own face on it, Ruby Riott's face or body, I guess. I hopefully this is the end of this now. No more gym table, no more tables at all with people on them, which just looks naff. No, enough, done, no more. Cool. The next match was Drew McIntyre versus Finn Balor, which I got completely wrong. I fully believed, even with a Dolph Ziggler distraction, that Finn Balor was going to lose this. But no, Drew McIntyre lost after the distraction from Dolph Ziggler. I was so surprised. Even on my notes, I've highlighted who won each match, and I've highlighted Drew McIntyre because it's still not working in my brain. So yeah, it's completely. Apparently, this is the start of a big push for Finn. They want to move him back towards the main event scene, which is somewhere he needs to be. He's just been floundering since he came back from his injury, and it's a real shame. I was worried that he was going to end up in the Dolph spot for a minute. I thought we were going to get a tag team between him and Dolph. Dolphin, which I know I've stolen that joke off other people, but yeah, which they could have been the tag team versions of themselves and sat there and lost to other teams going up to the tag team title spot. I guess I don't know. Having them as with a tag team title run would be actually quite good fun. And people have talked about Dolph Ziggler doing another turn. They doing it. Say he turned face before, but he turned heel again here. I felt like he hadn't turned face at all. I felt like he was still a heel. So I don't know. Again, I don't watch Raw and SmackDown anymore, but from what I've picked up, he was still acting like a heel. So he'd just been screwed by his partner. Heels could be screwed by their partners as well as faces could be screwed by their partners. So I didn't really see any particular difference. But no, hopefully this is the start of good things with Finn Balor, and he'll go from strength to strength. Next was a glorified hardcore match that is a chairs match. I felt this is one of the better chairs matches we've seen. It's going to be with two veterans like Randy and Rey Mysterio. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite really good. I would question if it was needed on this card. It was a really stacked card anyway, and a match like this, it didn't lead to anything. It wasn't a blow off to some big feud. It was sort of they just chucked these guys. It was a typical WWE. We're going to chuck these guys together. We're going to get annoyed at each other for no particular reason and have a match. So no, I personally would have scrapped this match off the card completely. And now I would quite like to see them end the feud and put both men in the Rumble, because the Rumble is where both these men have excelled in the past and will excel in the future. I would far rather see that than another singles feud. And then they've got to escalate it from a chairs match to what you can't go from having a hardcore style match to then going to a singles match, because then you're de-escalating the feud. You've got to escalate it up. So where do they go from here? You don't really want another gimmick card, another gimmick match really on the pay-per-view. And I'd rather see at Royal Rumble the 4 main titles defended, and then these guys in the Royal Rumble match. That's what I'll go for anyway. Moving on next to the Raw women's title match with Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey. My main notes on this are Nia is awful. That's all that you need to say. Ronda Rousey is good. She's improving. Every match she's getting better. She's fast becoming the best women's wrestler on the roster, although I wouldn't say she is quite the best yet. But that's because SmackDown has the 3 best on his card. And again, I've said that a lot recently. We'll talk about that later. With this, I felt if you wouldn't have thought that Ronda is the one that is under a year's experience, and Nia is the one that has been doing this for a few years now and has family lineage in this sport. Nia is slow, she's clunky, and I don't think it's a size issue. I think it's an in shape issue. You can be, I may have talked about this 2 weeks ago, but you can be in shape and big. Look at someone like Samoa Joe. For his size, he moves so fast, so well. It's just she's just not in shape, and I'm just fed up of seeing her match. And I don't think more training is going to help improve her. Not the train. If they send her down to NXT and she trains how to do moves and stuff, it'll help a little bit. But she needs to get herself in shape. You can be that size and in shape. She chooses not to be, and she's putting the other wrestlers in danger. It's the best thing you can say about this match is she didn't injure her opponent. But and then Ronda added a certain high-flying element to her game, especially in the finish where she sort of climbed up Nia Jax to lock in the armbar. She has, you'd expect someone from UFC to fit physically into the sport very well, but she's also got the right charisma for it. She's doing that side of it really well, and the little kiss she blew to Tamina at the end was really good, and helped add to the finish. So yeah, there's not much more else to say about this match. Ronda Rousey's good. I like her. Push her. Give her a match at WrestleMania. Next, we come to the WWE title match of AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan. This was a brilliant match, but we all knew it was going to be a brilliant match. These are probably the 2 best wrestlers on the roster. Full stop. Daniel Bryan wins with his militant vegan gimmick. He had the little pre-match spot where he talked about changing the belt. Again, I haven't seen SmackDown. They probably haven't had a chance to do this if they are going to do it. But he talks about changing the title belt. He's going to take the lever out of the title belt, and it's really good. It's Daniel Bryan has completely changed himself around this gimmick. It's very Chris Jericho. very CM Punk. He's managed to completely rebrand himself. It was quite obvious that the Yes movement, Daniel Bryan, had stalled. WWE didn't really have much for him. Fans were really beginning to lose interest. So he's pulled this out of a bag. And weirdly, his matches seem to have improved. Maybe it's because he's not going up against the Miz now. The Miz feud, which promised so much but fell so flat. Apparently, this is a heel turn that he pushed for, which him proving again that he's got the ears for it. He knows what the fans want, and he's once again delivering. I'm sure he's enjoying this somewhat as well, being able to say the things he likes to say, but with a bit of a twist on them. So yeah, I really enjoyed this match. This was, for me, up to this point, this was the match of the night. But it was just a very solid, technical, intelligent match from these two. They didn't rely on spots or anything like that. It was just a really good wrestling. So yeah, really like that one.
Yeah, listening to Life Junkies podcast.
Next, moving on to the Intercontinental title match between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Now, this, earlier when I said I was going to talk about a match where they ruined two great wrestlers with awful booking, this is the match. They've completely wasted Dean Ambrose's return and his turn. When he first came back, there was a massive buzz about him. He came back in the best shape of his life. He had cut his hair. He looked serious. He teased the heel turn really well. I thought he was going to turn that first pay-per-view back, but he didn't. And then when they turned him, it's been awful since then. The booking's been weird. They had the Bane mask, the weird vignettes. All of it has just been naff. And the crowd didn't care. And it felt also like commentary didn't care. I was confused. I couldn't work out if I wasn't enjoying the match or if I was just being distracted by the awful commentary. And I know that Renee and Corey Graves get along in real life, but it felt like he was going at her on this. I don't know if this is something he decided he was going to do or if it was an instruction from the back on the headset, but on and on and on. And she didn't really know. She didn't seem to know what to say. And the whole thing, she was just getting confused. They were just on it. The whole thing was just atrocious. And then, so yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a bad match or if I was being distracted by the awful commentary. And then the boring chant started, and I realised no, it is a bad match. It's a bad match and bad commentary. Bad match is maybe a bit harsh, but it was just very formulaic. There was no real passion to it, and it's these guys who are meant to hate each other. Dean Ambrose turned on Seth Rollins, the night of Roman Reigns' cancer announcement, and when they should be supporting each other, he turned on them, and then have a by the numbers technical match. I think it would have been a lot better received if it opened the show. To slap it in between the two best matches of the night, and if the crowd have just seen AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan have a great match, and then they've gone on to they want the Charlotte Flair, Asuka and Becky Lynch TLC match. So I think everything was sort of against this match for working, and it didn't work. I would just kill the feud now. And if you kill it now, you can come back to it, in a few months' time when you can build it a bit better. I think if they keep pushing this, I don't think they can save it from this point. It would take a monumentally brilliant piece of booking for them to save this. So I would scrap it and come back to it in a few months' time, maybe just after WrestleMania or something. And then the final match of the night was the SmackDown Women's Title TLC match between Charlotte Flair, Asuka, and Becky Lynch. This was a deserved main event. We've had other women's matches that have been a main event that I've been like, really? Is this the biggest match of the night? But for me, this is my most anticipated match of the night. I was really looking forward to it, and I think it delivered. I'd say this is the best match of the night. I want to talk about Becky Lynch's leg drop of Charlotte, which looked nasty. It looked like it really hurt. I was genuinely really concerned for her at the time. And my partner was in the other room, and I saw it, and I just shouted. She came around and go, "What's wrong?" I think I hurt myself or something, and I was like, "Oh, watch this," and then she sort of winced at it. That's the kind of move. There was no give. The table didn't give. Also, she landed flat on her. There was no sort of the mechanics of a leg drop of it. You sort of similar to like a frog splash, but just on your leg, where you sort of extend it as you're going down, and just as you hit, you just pull it back up. There was none in that, and I don't think Becky Lynch couldn't, because she hit it too far up on the bum to do that. And the way Charlotte Flair was positioned on the table, Becky Lynch couldn't have hit it any other way other than that. And it was just that sort of solid. Another quite nice looking spot was Charlotte Spear on Asuka into the barricade. She just sort of squashed her. That looked really nasty. Another nice spot was Charlotte's weird sort of half swanton bomb. What people keep calling it a swanton, but it's not. More a senton bomb, which is swanton bomb is Jeff Hardy's specific one where he jumps and does the arch and boom. The senton bomb is that sort of what she does, where she sort of stands and sort of just jumps and sort of forward roll through someone. We've sort of seen that in every hardcore match her and Becky have had so far, and it's been naff every single time. So why they've done it again, I don't really know. Stop it, please, just stop it. It's not great. And then finally, Ronda Rousey comes out, screws Becky and Charlotte in a weird, awkward-looking spot. I don't know, maybe they're sort of very too. The ladder is too big for them to not go over ropes, but it's obviously neither one to go over ropes. There's nothing there to break their fall, no tables or anything like that. So they both clung on a bit and then fell down, and then they're like, "Oh, we're out," and it didn't work. And then Asuka had sort of a slow climb up, which makes sense, but then it means that the other two girls have got to sell for longer down from what was a fairly easy spot. If you're going to do that, I would have Rousey sort of take them down, they fall down, and then attack them, hurt them a bit more to give them reason to be down for longer. Having said that, Asuka winning is brilliant. I loved it. She's really good, and she fully deserves a run with the women's title. She should have had it last WrestleMania. She should have beaten Charlotte Flair, and then had a nice dominant, carried on her winning run, and had a nice dominant year this year. And then maybe be losing it about now. But maybe if she'd done that, we wouldn't have seen the man. Becky Lynch come back as the man. So, it's ifs and buts. But, giving it to her now, give her a decent run, allow her to become the unstoppable force she was when she first came up for NXT, showcase some of that, and then have someone finally dethrone her. I don't think it'll be Becky Lynch, because I think I would personally be moving Becky Lynch across to Raw to feud with Ronda Rousey in the future. But what would be a really nice story is while Becky Lynch goes over to Raw, maybe someone like Ember Moon comes back over and then starts to climb up the women's roster and finally dethrones Asuka and earns back, because she's the one, again, for those that don't watch NXT, Asuka was the dominant force and Ember Moon was sort of her last challenger, and she never could beat her. And then when Asuka vacated the NXT title belt to go up to the main roster, Ember Moon was the first person that won it, and it devalued her somewhat. And she never really got a run with the title. She didn't get a dominant run with the title. And the next decent time she came up against, which was what's her name down in NXT, Shayna Baszler, first decent challenger Ember Moon came up against. She lost the title to her. So she's sort of a person that never was. It feels like she is a transitional champion in between two very good champions. So I would personally like to see her have that redemption story again. Something they should have really done with Bayley. I know Bayley didn't need a redemption story. She was very she was very strong in NXT. She was the woman in NXT before Asuka, but when she came up, she got pinned around a bit. It would be nice to see her have that moment at WrestleMania of catching the title. I'm not saying it should happen at WrestleMania, because it definitely I would Asuka to be a champion longer than just to this WrestleMania. But I don't think she needs to be champion until next WrestleMania. So at some point next year, I would have Ember Moon get the feel-good story of finally defeating Asuka for women's title bout, one that means more than the NXT title bout, although it's hard to believe because neither of them are treated like it really. And then she gets that nice feel-good story. But, that's me looking too far into the future, maybe. But anyway, I loved this match. I thought it was really good. A real showcase of the three best women on the roster. So, yeah, going forward, I'd like to see, again, Ronda Rousey is very good. Again, Ember Moon is another one I'm a big fan of, but I think these three are the top. Even if you take into account Alexa Bliss, who, along with Charlotte, has pretty much carried the women's roster the last few years on the main card. Alexa Bliss is very good, but she's not a brilliant wrestler. She's an okay wrestler. She can get by. She's great at the character side of things. But these are the three best wrestlers, pure wrestlers. And long may they reign at the top of the card. Anyway, thank you for listening to the pay-per-view. There may be an odd cut halfway through because I was interrupted in the middle of it, but hey, I'll work it out. And this is going to be late. This is 4 o'clock now, and I've only just finished recording. So, yeah, we'll get everything edited and up. So, anyway, thank you for joining me for this podcast if you made it this far, and see you soon. Once again, as you are listening on or watching on YouTube, there's not much to watch, but there you go. I have a few more videos for you to watch. If this is your first one of my podcasts you're listening to, then I will have my podcast playlist pop up on the screen. I do lots of wrestling ones. I've also done a Football Manager podcast and a gaming podcast. I plan to do a bit more in the future of different types of things. If wrestling isn't your passion, then I have a Football Manager video of mine showing one of my tactics I use for my Steve McLaren challenge on my Football Manager save. So please check that out. Thank you guys. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks. Bye-bye.